The story often told about Jarrod Schulz begins with fame on television, but his life long before cameras were rolling was shaped by instability, ambition, and repeated attempts to find direction. While many people first saw him as one half of a high-energy duo on a hit auction-based reality series, his background was far from glamorous. He grew up trying to carve out opportunities in a competitive environment where financial pressure and poor decisions often collided. Before television success, he moved through a series of jobs that rarely stuck, constantly searching for a path that would finally provide stability. What later made him recognizable on screen was not just his personality, but also the raw edges of a life already marked by setbacks and recovery attempts. His eventual public image as a young gun, bitter, was built on years of struggle, learning experiences, and the constant tension between ambition and consequences that followed him into adulthood. Early legal trouble and a turning point behind bars long before television recognition. Jarrod Schulz faced serious legal trouble that would alter the direction of his life. In his early 20s, he was arrested in connection with drug-related offenses, including possession of methamphetamine and driving under the influence, according to widely reported accounts. These incidents were not isolated, as records suggest earlier exposure to similar behavior patterns. Initially, the court system gave him what appeared to be a second chance, with a short jail sentence and probation. However, shortly after release, he was arrested again, this time facing more serious circumstances due to repeat behavior. The judge ultimately determined that he had violated the opportunity for leniency, resulting in a 16-month state prison sentence. This period became a defining chapter, placing him in an environment that forced confrontation with consequences and long-term implications of his choices. For many observers of his later life, this moment is often viewed as the beginning of his attempted transformation. Life in prison and the decision to change direction, serving time in a state correctional facility, marked a major shift in Jarrod Schulz's perspective on life. Unlike short-term detention, state prison exposed him to individuals with a wide range of criminal backgrounds, including violent offenders serving long sentences. This environment reportedly played a role in making him reflect on his own trajectory and the risks of continuing down the same path. While incarceration is not typically described as a positive experience, it can sometimes force individuals into reflection, and in his case, it appears to have contributed to a desire to avoid returning to that system. After completing his sentence, he left prison at around 21 years old with a felony record, limited prospects, and a determination to rebuild. However, the challenges of reintegration were significant, as criminal records often restrict employment opportunities and social mobility. Despite this, he attempted to move forward, aiming to build a life that would separate him from his earlier mistakes. Rebuilding life and meeting Brandy Passante after his release, Jarrod Schulz slowly began rebuilding his life through ordinary work and stability-focused decisions. He eventually found employment in sales and later met Brandy Passante, who would become a central figure in both his personal and professional journey. Their relationship began in the late 1990s, and she played a major role in grounding his life during a period of transition. Unlike others who might have judged him based on his past, she reportedly saw potential in his efforts to change. Over time, their relationship deepened, and they built a family together, welcoming 2 children in the early 2000s. This period marked a shift toward domestic stability, even as financial pressures remained present. Brandy became both a partner and a stabilizing force, while Jarrod worked to maintain employment and avoid returning to old habits. Their partnership would later become a defining element of their public image, once television exposure entered their lives. Financial rise and collapse during the housing crisis during the early 2000s, Jarrod Schulz attempted to establish himself in the mortgage and sales industry, taking advantage of a booming housing market for a time. This venture brought financial success and allowed him to support his growing family. However, the broader economic collapse during the late 2000s housing crisis had devastating effects on many in the industry, including his business. What once appeared to be a stable career path quickly disintegrated as demand dropped and opportunities vanished. This collapse was not just financial but also emotional, as it represented another failed attempt to establish long-term stability. With limited options and a family to support, he was forced to consider alternative income sources. This period of uncertainty eventually led to a suggestion from a family connection involving storage auctions, an idea that would unexpectedly redirect his life. Though initially seen as a temporary solution, it ultimately became the gateway to his public recognition. Entry into storage auctions and television break through Jarrod Schulz's introduction to storage auctions marked a turning point that would define his public identity for years. Alongside Brandy Passante, he began attending storage unit auctions, purchasing abandoned units in hopes of finding valuable resale items. This hustle-based approach reflected both necessity and instinct, as the couple attempted to recover financially from previous setbacks. Their energetic bidding style and visible chemistry caught the attention of television producers developing a reality series centered on storage auctions. When the show premiered, they quickly became standout personalities due to their competitive nature and relatable struggles. Their nickname as Young Guns reflected their underdog status compared to more experienced bidders with larger budgets. As the series gained popularity, they transitioned from local auction participants to nationally recognized television figures. This sudden shift introduced fame, financial opportunity, and public scrutiny simultaneously, transforming what had been a survival strategy into a long-term entertainment career. Fame, business ventures, and growing pressure with the success of the television series, Jarrod Schulz and Brandy Passante experienced a dramatic rise in visibility and income. Their popularity translated into significant earnings per episode and opportunities for brand expansion. They also attempted to build independent business ventures, including thrift-style retail stores intended to provide long-term financial stability outside of television. While these businesses initially benefited from publicity, they ultimately struggled to remain profitable and eventually closed. At the same time, maintaining a public persona on a reality show added pressure to their personal lives. Constant filming, public expectations, and business responsibilities created a layered stress environment. Although fame offered financial relief, it also magnified existing challenges, including communication issues and financial risk-taking. The contrast between television success and real-world business difficulties became increasingly apparent, highlighting the fragile balance between entertainment-driven income and sustainable entrepreneurship in their lives. Relationships strain and break down over time as years passed. The relationship between Jarrod Schulz and Brandy Passante began to experience significant strain. While they had built a family and career together, underlying tensions reportedly grew due to financial stress, personality differences, and long-term lifestyle pressures. Their public appearances sometimes showed conflict, which became part of their on-screen dynamic. Eventually, the relationship deteriorated, and they separated around 2018, though they continued working together professionally for some time afterward. The decision to maintain a business and television partnership despite personal separation reflected both necessity and unresolved complexity. Brandy later described herself as focusing on independence and personal identity following the breakup, while also emphasizing her role as a primary caregiver. For Jarrod, the separation meant losing both a life partner and a key professional collaborator. This period marked a significant emotional shift as their long-standing partnership transitioned from family unit to professional association with underlying tension. The bar incident and legal allegations, one of the most widely reported controversies involving Jarrod Schulz, occurred after his separation from Brandy Passante, when an incident allegedly took place at a bar in Orange County. According to reports and statements referenced in media coverage, a confrontation occurred between the two during a night out with friends. The situation reportedly escalated into a verbal dispute that became physical, leading to allegations that he pushed Brandy during the altercation. Law enforcement was contacted, and although he left the scene before officers arrived, he later denied the allegations when questioned. Prosecutors ultimately filed a misdemeanor domestic violence battery charge, though legal outcomes in such cases depend on court proceedings and evidence evaluation. This incident drew significant public attention due to their shared history and television presence, intensifying scrutiny of their past relationship dynamics and raising broader questions about unresolved conflict following long-term partnerships. Exit from television and public fallout following the legal controversy and increasing tension surrounding his personal life, Jarrod Schulz's role on the television series effectively came to an end. Although episodes filmed earlier still aired, his presence gradually disappeared from later seasons. The show continued without him, while Brandy Passante remained part of the cast. This separation marked the end of a major chapter in his public identity, as the series had been central to his recognition for over a decade. Losing the show also meant losing a primary source of income, visibility, and professional identity. Public perception shifted, with attention focusing more on controversy than entertainment. While no official, detailed explanation was widely provided, his absence was widely interpreted as a result of both personal circumstances and network decisions. The transition highlighted how quickly reality television fame can fade when personal issues intersect with professional obligations. Life after fame and a return to business after stepping away from television exposure, Jarrod Schulz shifted his focus toward business ownership and private life. He became associated with a bar and grill business in California, taking on a more low-profile entrepreneurial role. Unlike his television years, this phase of life has been far less public, with limited media coverage. Reports suggest he continued working in hospitality while also maintaining a personal relationship. While business ownership offered stability, it did not come with the same visibility or financial scale as his previous television career. His life became more localized, centered around day-to-day operations rather than national attention. For many former reality TV personalities, this type of transition is common, as public interest fades and individuals return to private enterprise. In his case, the shift represented both an ending and a continuation of ongoing efforts to maintain financial independence outside of entertainment. Reflection, family impact, and closing perspective looking at Jarrod Schulz's life as a whole reveals a complex pattern of ambition, setbacks, reinvention, and controversy. From early legal troubles to television fame, and from business success to personal breakdown, his story reflects the instability that can accompany rapid shifts in fortune. His relationship with Brandy Passante played a central role in both his rise and decline, shaping his public image and personal identity for nearly 2 decades. Their children, now adults, grew up through periods of public attention, business changes, and family conflict, which adds another layer of emotional complexity to his journey. Whether viewed as a redemption story or a cautionary tale, his life illustrates how difficult it can be to fully separate past behavior from present identity. Ultimately, his story is less about a single moment and more about a long sequence of choices and consequences, that continued to shape his path long after fame arrived and eventually faded.